On this episode, we read some amazing webmail written to the Friendly Neighborhood Wallcrawlers mag. We also discuss our favorite superheroes. Spoiler alert, my picks are better. But first, the MMMS. Who are they? What's their secret? And why should we care? I'm the ever-loving James Heyer, along with resident laughing boy Enrique Ramirez. All this on True Believers.
Very nice. I applaud you. Very good.
We finally wrote an intro.
Yes.
Finally did it.
And you nailed it.
Yes. Well, back at the station, people used to call me a one-take wonder.
Yes, we did.
No one ever called me that. Well, basically, the first subject is the MMMS. We kind of talked about that last time.
Mm-hmm. I was surprised that we got a response from our friend George so fast on Facebook. We posted it on my Facebook page. Also, thank you, George, for listening to the whole thing.
I know, because I think that was towards the end of our show, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I was surprised. Wow, someone listened to the whole thing.
I know.
Which is always a good feeling once you get started doing something like this.
Because I wonder how many people start it, and they're like, man, this sucks. And turn it off.
I'm talking to you, Sean Conley.
Sean Conley is another good viewer.
He's a good friend of ours.
Most of it. We just are giving you a hard time.
Yeah, that's right. Hard time.
But anyway, let's go ahead and start off. Your friend, who we kind of already introduced, George, on Facebook.
He schooled us.
Yeah, he did, and he posted kind of what the MMMS was. And I do want to read his post. It pretty much says it all. This is what George wrote. MMMS stands for Mary Marvel Marching Society. It was like a Marvel fan club. Irving Forbush was just some character made up by Stan Lee, but you never really saw him in the comics. Irving probably was to Marvel what Alfred E. Newman was to Mad Magazine, except Irving was not visible. I think that's really interesting how they have this character, because, I mean, you always, when I've been reading this, I've always seen the MMMS fan club. You see what they're pitching, their T-shirts and their buttons to get kids to join this fan club. But when we were reading those, I had no idea who they were talking about when they were saying Irving Forbush. I was like, is that some, movie star from back in the day that I've never heard? Who is this guy? Mm-hmm. But so that's really interesting, and thank you, George, for posting that.
Yes, thank you.
I think that sums it up right there.
I'm hoping we get George on here to pick his brain, because I don't want to he is older than us. I mean, we're a younger generation, and I don't know how old George is, but I know we didn't grow up during the time that we're reading during the Marvel age of comics, correct? So hopefully we'll get him in here and he'll school us a little bit more.
I would like to. I'd like to know kind of what it was like to be a kid reading these, because I know, when we were growing up, comics were like kind of, by that point it was just kind of a sold out business. Everything was just over the top. It was just
overproduced.
Yeah. And I mean, when we were kids, though, I guess that brings up like video games, how the culture of video games have changed, and I'm sure, the culture of comics has changed. I'd like to know someone who grew up when Marvel was when Stan Lee and all these guys were turning these things out, and what it was like to be a kid and read all these ads and get all excited.
Exactly. If you think about it, comic books, like the characters today, are darker than they were back then. The fan club was called they had the word Mary in it. Yeah. And you couldn't get away with that these days.
And that's the thing, though. I think when Stan Lee left, and I know sometimes we give him when Stan Lee left, a lot of these guys left, but Stan Lee, the humor left. Mm-hmm. And, I know some comics should be a little darker. I mean, it works for comics like Daredevil, but, I mean,
I am a fan of those, too.
Devoid of humor, or when you do have humor, have it be so crass and immature, which is really how they were, at least for a long time, they were missing a lot when Stan Lee left.
Mm-hmm. If you think about it, they were innocent somewhat.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah. And Yeah, exactly. One thing that's really neat about the MMMS is if you go online, you can actually see just a lot of the things that they had. First off, it came with when you joined, you'd get this. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick.
You got a lot of neat stuff.
It came with one of the things. It came with buttons and all sorts of things. But one of the things it came with was this. And you see an ad for it in these comics. It was like it looked like a diploma, but everything on there is just complete nonsense. It says the Merry Marvel Marching Society. To all who shall see these presents, know ye that reposing special trust and confidence in the good humor, intelligence, and fidelity of your name, we do bestow upon same the honor of fellowship in the most ancient and exclusive order of the Merry Marvel Marching Society, entitling the aforementioned party or parties to freely partake of all benefits, privileges, and honorariums which may thereby accrue.
Easy for you to say.
Like what? It's just total BS. It's so funny. I mean, I would actually. This is one of those things. I'm not like a major collector type person by any means. Mm-hmm. This is something that I could see myself if I saw it for like $5 at like a
flea
show
market
or something.
Oh yeah,
I
would totally pick something up like this up. Yeah. I mean, there were T-shirts, and badges.
You see them. Like, there's a pin. Oh, and also, before we go on, you would see the MMMS. They had like a little logo at the bottom of their comics with the thing pointing at you. It says, the MMMS wants you. And actually, that might be who Irving Forbush. That might just be the thing in his terrible trench coat disguise.
That's what I didn't understand. Why the thing? Why use the thing to push this?
Oh, he was really popular
was he?
At the time.
Okay.
Yeah, Fantastic Four was really their first, and not counting Captain America, but Fantastic Four was really the first Marvel superheroes. We can actually, that might be a subject later on about the kind of what I've read about how Stanley came up with and Jack Kirby came up with the Fantastic Four. But they were incredibly popular, and it's really funny how nowadays they've kind of been forgotten. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe the word Fantastic Four kind of hurts them. Maybe it's one of those words that it's an adjective that kind of sounds silly in today's world. Right.
They should change. I think to update it, change the word fantastic with fisting. The fisting four.
I'd buy it.
You don't have to change anything, the logos or anything like that.
Imagine instead of would it be Mr. Fantastic or Mr. Fisting? Or would it be Mr. Fantastic Fisting?
Mr. Fistastic. That's what it would be.
It would be
Mr. Fistastic.
But I mean, they were anyway. They were really, really popular back then, and actually, their comics are pretty good in a weird way. They were actually more. They were a lot different. Like a lot of their stories revolved around how like they couldn't afford rent. Like there was one episode where they get kicked out of their apartment, and I guess like the Submariner owns their apartment. I don't remember. It was
nice.
Really weird.
Submariner was a slumlord,
like or something. I don't remember it exactly, but it's just like you see the Fantastic Four packing their bags, looking sad on the cover, and Submariner's like, "Get out!" It's like. What an evil fuck. Like, what an evil villain. Like, he
Yeah, and Reed Richards supposed to be this genius, but he's not smart enough to pay the rent.
You know what they remind me of more than superheroes? They kind of remind me of, like, a superhero version of Star Trek, because they were more about, like, exploring all these weird worlds, and none of them made sense. But, like, they were... So, anyway, let's bring this around. They were really popular. That's why it's the Thing. And the Thing was the most popular of the Fantastic Four.
Very cool.
And he's freaking awesome. He's cool.
Okay,
He's cool.
He's a
He
rock.
has a Brooklyn
He's cool.
accent in one of the cartoons. In the Avengers cartoon.
Oh.
You should watch it.
Yeah, I should.
It's really good.
Okay.
But
I'll watch that when you watch Young Justice.
Yeah, I might watch Young Justice.
It's actually really good.
Is it on Netflix?
I don't know. It's on Cartoon Network. I only watch it on rare occasions because I don't have cable.
Well, what else came with this? Aside, you get these buttons, you get these T-shirts. It also came with a little vinyl.
Oh, cool.
Vinyl record, just a single with a song about the Merry Marvel Marching Society, and it's you belong, and
very cool.
Button your shirt and all that. It's like
comb your hair,
be an innovator, walk a little prouder. It's a kind of a weird song, but you really should look up. There's an interview with Stan Lee where he talks about it. He got like the entire staff, forced them to walk across. He says in the interview that everyone was pissed at him. They're all just grumbling, and he forces them to walk over to the recording studio and sing it. What's weird is it sounds professional, so I don't know if they added more professional singers or if they just redubbed it later because I can't imagine like our boss taking us and making us sing and having it sound good.
Right.
I love the idea how like your boss is such a megalomaniac that he makes you sing a song.
Sing the song. How come this hasn't been remixed by hip hop?
Because we
listened to a little bit before. I could totally see that being in a song these days.
Yeah, it should be. Here's another ad. We're going to try to put these on.
Yeah.
There's one with Dr. Doom is hanging out with the Hulk, and the Hulk's like, what's your problem? And Dr. Doom's like, look, I'm wearing a T-shirt of you on it. And Hulk's like, fuck you.
That'll get you laid.
And the T-shirt, I don't know if I had that one when I was a kid or not.
Oh,
I know my dad or somebody gave me like a Hulk T-shirt. I was like 5.
Oh yeah.
I probably didn't even know who the Hulk was. But, this T-shirt's pretty funny. On the front, it says "Here comes the Hulk," and on the back, he's walking away, and it says "There goes the Hulk."
I have boxers that say that.
No, you don't. And if you do, they're a lie.
That's more like "Here comes the Wasp."
They're I know this weekend I went with a friend to to one of those flea market shows.
Gun show?
No, it wasn't a gun show, but it was the one at Century 2, which I guess they have once a month. I don't really get too into it because when I was a kid, my grandmother was an antiquer, I had to do this shit like every summer.
Yeah.
And between working on the farm and then doing with my grandparents and then doing the antiquing, like you really start to understand the culture behind it. So if I go to these things, instead of looking, like I'll look at cool stuff, but then I just vicariously start thinking about like these people working there and like what I would do, and like you start to relate to them, and it ends up being kind of weird. And I ended up, and I'm really trying to save money anyway, so I didn't buy anything.
Yeah.
But places like that, we ended up seeing some like.
Were there a lot of comic stuff?
Aside from, there were some really cool like antiques and stuff too. But like there were some comics, there were some nerd stuff like toys and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if that's the type of stuff you're into, it might be worth checking out. And really, I mean, there were all sorts of things there. I mean,
yeah, nerd stuff.
I mean, all sorts of, like, if you're into like antiques and stuff,
check it out.
They have them like at the Coliseum. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it about the MMMS. Also, another thing that I learned about this interview was I guess they did this for a couple years, and then the publisher, whose name escapes me, I apologize, I can't think of the publisher's name right now. But the publisher, after a couple years, told Stan Lee to pull the plug on it. It wasn't bringing in the revenue that they were hoping for, and Stan Lee said he tried doing it again in the 70s. It wasn't called the MMMS this time, and he said it was fairly successful. And then and he says it in this interview. I'm paraphrasing. He says that after he left Marvel, they tried doing another fan club, and he said it was. He said in the interview that it was abysmal, that it that it was just a mess, and he said basically like they didn't have the humor. Really, they didn't. I mean, honestly, they didn't have Stan Lee. They didn't have the humor, and that's why. I mean, if it's not funny, you can't. That's the thing. I think when Stan Lee left Marvel, like you can tell, like the humor's gone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know why so serious. You know, I mean, I don't know why they have to be so serious all the time, because you're reading about a guy who shoots webbing out of his hand. And,
right.
Like it's like, can't we have a little fun with this? I mean, it's make believe stuff. I mean,
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Don't take it so seriously. It seems like, the world's ending in every episode or something.
I mean, who relates to this shit?
Who relates to this shit?
Well, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Is there anything else on the MMMS that you think we?
I think we covered it. I just think it's kind of interesting that it only lasted a little bit, and it's something we picked up on, and now I want to join.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I want to send Stan Lee my money right now.
I'd send him $1 right now.
Yeah, that's the thing. Actually, what was it? It's $1. Let's see.
It's just $1. You mail $1 with a money order.
That sounds like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, you get all sorts of stuff.
Weren't making any money off of it.
Maybe if they charge $2.
You belong to the Merry Marvel Marching Society. March along to the song of the Merry Marvel Marching Society.
We're gonna go ahead and read these fantastic web mails in the back of Spider-Man number 14. Just to kind of go over what this issue is about, and of course none of these mails will talk about it. This is the debut of the Green Goblin.
Very nice.
And
this one has kind of like a weird. This is a weird story.
What's really weird on this one, on these old Steve Ditko Stan Lee storylines, they're all pretty much classics. Like if you've ever seen a cartoon or even most of the movies, they usually take storylines from this era, from these first 3 or so years, because every storyline just works. And there was just something about Steve Ditko, just one after another, classic villain. Like most of the villains, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Sandman, Mysterio, like they all came, the Lizard, who was in the latest movie, they all came from like the first year. And not only that, but then you had like other classic storylines, like that fun story where Flash Thompson dresses up as Spider-Man and then gets in trouble. That's been in every cartoon iteration I've ever seen. Usually it's with a different villain, but it's the same idea. What's interesting about this, though, this is the debut of the Green Goblin, who is arguably the best villain. He's basically Spider-Man's Joker. I mean, you could argue Doc Ock, but I would say Green Goblin is the closest thing that Spider-Man has to an ultimate arch enemy. But this debut storyline is so weird, and it's a storyline they've never really reused because it's pretty bizarre. The idea is the Green Goblin actually takes, he comes around and he's like, I have to kill Spider-Man for some reason. Okay,
I must
and
kill Spider-Man.
then he flies around and he tells Spider-Man that he is working on a movie in Hollywood where they want to do a movie about Spider-Man, and they want to use the real Spider-Man to film this movie.
Obviously.
Here's the kicker. It works. Spider-Man is like, yeah, I'll go to Hollywood. So then he wants to make some money, so he decides to go. I think they even give him a plane ticket, or maybe Jameson does. Here's the
Wow.
other thing. He goes, oh no, Jameson does. So he goes over and tells Jameson and Betty Brant that, as in his Peter Parker persona, he tells Jameson and Betty Brant that Spider-Man's making a movie in Hollywood, and he wants to go as a photographer. And that works. And they're like, yeah, sure, here's some money, go get a plane ticket.
The planets
So
are
then he
aligning.
then he goes to Aunt May, and keep in mind, he's like a 16-year-old high school kid. He goes to Aunt May and says, hey, I'm going to go to Hollywood and take some pictures of Spider-Man making a movie. It works. She's like, oh, be careful.
Okay.
So,
Bring me some rock candy.
I mean, it's like, and then of course, like, so the Green Goblin, when they're in the like this California desert filming it, the Green Goblin ambushes him with some mobsters called the Enforcers, who we've already met before. And then things really go to hell when the Hulk
Oh
appears.
no. Oh no.
So I mean, it's a really weird.
So the
way.
Hulk just shows up.
He just shows up. I guess this is the Hulk. I guess sort of he was like hanging out in the Southwest at this time, and he just pops up and he's like, "Get the fuck out of my caves!" And the Green Goblin's like, "Well, if it weren't for the Hulk, I would have killed him." Oh well.
Oh shit!
Guess I didn't plan on that.
The Hulk can ruin any plan.
He really can't. He's a ruiner. That's what he is. Yeah, I just want to go over this introduction. I mean, this is kind of the offbeat type of stuff that they used to do back then.
Right.
These are the teasers on the cover of the
To
comic.
bring you in to get you to buy.
You've got a picture of Spider-Man fighting, like crawling away from Green Goblin. Wow. Just wait till you see the Green Goblin. Does the Green Goblin look cute to you? Does he make you want to smile? Well, forget it. He's the most sinister, most dangerous foe Spidey's ever fought. Guest starring none other than the rampaging powerhouse, the Incredible Hulk. And then, and then there's another teaser. There's an arrow pointing at these guys in the background. No, you're not seeing things. These really are the evil enforcers. Back again to gang up on our old web spinner. I mean, it's just,
Is he cute? The actual line.
like these are. I mean,
I would
like these are just the strangest ways to draw you into these comics.
Oh my gosh.
But I mean, it's really funny stuff. Keep in mind, this is as funny as this is. Like 10 years later, when they get a little more serious with it, that same villain kills Spider-Man's girlfriend. So it's like, I guess the laughter is over at that point.
Well, I would think it would seem like he was kind of like the Joker. Does he make you smile?
Yeah.
And if you look at the artwork, if you look at his smile, he kind of looks like the Joker.
He's got
a ear-to-ear grin on his face.
Yeah, he's a good villain. He's probably, I mean, I would put him, and of course we all loved Willem Dafoe as the Green
Oh,
Goblin.
yeah,
He was born to play that
Yes, definitely. I can't think of anyone else to be in that spot.
role. No, I wouldn't want it any other way.
You shouldn't want it any other way.
Okay, Mark Webb, don't put the Green Goblin in the new movie unless you're going to do Willem Dafoe.
That's right. Easy. It's not going to happen.
It doesn't matter.
Someone's going to
be a
screw it
terrible
up.
movie anyway. Well, anyway, here's some web mail. That joke never stops being funny. They all had like funny jokes, all these bullpens, and this one is called Spider's Web. Actually, that's not as funny as Mails to Suspense, but whatever.
I like that.
Dear Stan and Steve, I don't believe it. You've come up with a superhero who is, of all things, human. Spider-Man is the only superhero who makes mistakes. Bravo. By wondering if Spider-Man will be victorious when a danger comes up, presto. Instant fun, mystery, excitement, and adventure. Take some other company's hero. I'll call him X. When X fights a bad guy, X is literally cluttered with so many superpowers that all the fun and adventure is washed out. So keep Spider-Man human with human problems, and you'll get a winner every time. That advice goes the same way for the FF, Avengers, and other great mags. In conclusion, I don't consider this an order, just a pat on the back. And that's from Mark Mead from Ontario, Canada. Oh, I should have been saying a boot this whole time. Well, go on.
A couple of things here that I'm realizing after reading a couple of these. These are adults writing in, not kids.
Yeah.
And they're meant for kids.
Yeah.
Another thing is all of these
This
males.
guy's 19, but yeah, an adult.
An adult. He can buy cigarettes and fight in a war. Another thing is most of these letters start with the words "I don't believe."
I know.
Like, was that the thing to say back then?
Everything they read is just shocking.
And who do you think he was poking fun at here?
I don't.
Maybe
You mean
Superman?
X?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be Superman.
Okay.
I'm
not a Superman fan, so
I'm totally a Superman fan.
I can't get into
got
it.
the mythology. Like, he's a good character.
I mean, it's a good character, but that's not something I want to read.
Yeah.
So.
You should try. The Man of Steel. I do recommend you read those. It was only a 6-issue story arc in the 80s, but yeah. Anyway, here's the response. Thanks, Mark. But tell us, what does PMQ? Oh, sorry, Mark Reed PMQ from Ontario, Canada. But he says, thanks, Mark. But tell us, what does PMQ stand for in the Royal Canadian Air Force? Any of our readers want to guess? That's actually really funny because I didn't read PMQ the first time because I didn't know what it stood for. And I decided, no, I don't want to guess. So.
Don't waste my time. All right. This one's from Jerry Merle from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Ooh,
Not too far from here.
Yeah, he's just down the road a little bit.
We got some Midwesterners writing in.
Yeah.
All right. In this in his letter, he says, Dear Stan and Steve, in issue 10 of Spider-Man, J. Jonah Jameson talks about being jealous of Spider-Man. Well, I felt kind of sorry for him, so I wanted to know if you would put in a future magazine a story where Spider-Man saves JJJ's life, then Triple J could forget about the feud between them. Please. All right, here's the response. Dear Jerry, grow up. This is made... No, he doesn't say that. He doesn't say that. I just like putting it.
This is made for children. Please get a life. Stanley.
Get laid, Stanley. Yeah, here's what is written. Now we still don't know. I would love to ask Stan. Stan, did you respond to every one of these? That's what I want to ask.
I'd like to ask him too.
Yeah. Or if he's got some intern writing. Anyway, here's what he responds. You want us to make up a story? For shame, Jerry. We've tried to convince everyone these tales are true. Like, I was just sitting at my window and I saw all of this happen the other day and I'm writing it down in a comic book. So I'm hoping there's sarcasm in that. I don't know. I think that one was from Stan.
Yeah, I would think so too. Let's see this one. I'm gonna make this one a little smaller so I can see. It's too small.
What's funny is they're gradually getting a little bit more ridiculous each time, and maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of seeing. I don't know. It's like the same people that call in to complain to like TV and radio shows.
Jeez.
Like just turn
These people are not as bad as them.
Right.
And
no,
actually,
I agree.
There's probably those people were probably writing in too. They just didn't. They just weren't one of the lucky 10 to be published. At
Correct.
The end of
Correct.
Here's another one. Dear Stan and Steve, I really enjoyed Amazing Spider-Man number 10, and I would like to take this opportunity to say that each and every... Let's see, let me scroll up. Each and every issue of this great magazine is better than the preceding ish. Spider-Man is the best on the market. It is a theory of mine that new comic addicts are started on the way to fandom by the introduction of striking and exciting covers, which quite naturally gain their attention. The cover of the issue the cover of the issue in discussion is only the most beautiful and exciting of any comic mag cover I have ever gained the pleasure of seeing. Just keep that Marvel seal in the corner, along with the great stories, majestic covers and artwork, and the new editions of your Marvel group of comics. Comic books are a slice of pure Americana, never to be forgotten by people like you and me and the thousands of others who are conscious of what comics have done for us. Wow.
Not
That guy, he was into it.
Oh
Although,
yeah,
I kinda
somewhat
like his
normal
writing
though.
style.
Yeah, somewhat normal though. You know what I mean? It was normal.
He is William Stockman from Waterford, California. And here's what Stanley writes. And don't think we're going to lead with our chins by asking what they've done for us, Billy boy.
It's like a letter from my gay uncle.
I'm trying to, if you don't mind real quick, I'm going to look up and see which one issue 10 was.
Yeah, sure.
I'm trying to I used to have them. I used to kind of remember them, but in order.
Well, geez, there's so many of them. How can you remember? I know you're...
It's the Enforcers.
Okay.
Surprise, surprise. Yeah, that's the one that they're talking about. And the Enforcers were working with the Green Goblin in issue 14.
Oh, very nice.
What a coincidence.
Coincidence?
Let's see. Okay.
The Enforcers.
Goodness. All right. Let's go ahead and get you set up on one.
Alrighty.
All
right. Which one are we at?
Right there.
Here we go. This is from Leo. You bastard. You would give me that.
Leo Soricelli.
Let's just go
from
Leo
Peaksville,
Italian.
New York.
We'll call him Leo Italian.
Leo Italione.
Dear Stan and Steve, I've read all different brands of comics, and I have not yet found a brand as good as Marvel. My favorite Marvel comic is Spiderman. When I read some of your comics, they advertise others such as Spider-Man versus Electro or Iron Man versus the Scarecrow. You say that they are now on sale, but the stupid comic store never has the ones the ones I see and want. But anyway, I still think no matter what, that your comics are the best. Here's what is responded. Here's the response. We're never dead sure when they'll go on sale either, Leo. We have to kind of guess at the date because it varies from city to city. We hate to admit we're not perfect, but c'est la vie.
That's really interesting how it was back then, because nowadays it's every Wednesday.
Right.
It's like the industry has figured out a good day. You know, sort of like music and movie. The music and movie industry is every
Tuesday. Yeah.
Here it's Wednesday. That's really interesting that it just varied state to state. They didn't have a
And I wonder where, and maybe this is a question for George if we get him to come on. Where did you go to get comic books? Grocery store, pharmacy, newsstand?
I'm sure they didn't have comic book stores. I bet in New York you'd get them at newsstands.
Right. Yeah, like here in Wichita, where would you go?
I don't know.
And then how do you know when the new one's coming out?
Yeah.
So,
that's
kind
really,
of a roll of the dice, I guess.
If you never know when it's coming out, that's really interesting how the industry just wasn't on top of things yet.
Right. Well, I imagine, they were taken seriously. That's not like... Today, it's like a money-making machine almost because now with the movies coming out and DVD sales... now they got their act together, and they know we need to get this out every Wednesday to get people buying. That's how we're going to make money to make movies.
Yeah. That's the neat thing about reading this mail is 90% of it is just funny bullshit. But every now and then you'll find a letter like that really kind of makes you realize what being a fan in the 60s was like. I mean, it was then and gives you a glimpse of the industry itself.
Right.
I mean, it was very different.
I think it'd be very frustrating because I know I look forward to every Wednesday because I get to continue that storyline, that adventure. Back then it would drive me nuts, and I'd probably give up. I wouldn't collect because I was like, okay, this is one. Here's today, and what if next month, they're all sold out, and I missed one.
Yeah.
So it'd be very frustrating.
Okay, this one is from Eric King in Dayton, Nevada. Dear Stan and Steve, I've read Marvel Comics from the beginning. Spider-Man couldn't be improved. The X-Men are great, but the Avengers aren't up to Marvel's regular standards. One thing I must comment on is the girl members of the Marvel family. Oh, we've talked about this before. They're all a bunch of wow. Oh, wait. They're all a bunch of wows. Pepper Potts. Oh, he's saying they're hot. Pepper Potts, who substars with Iron Man, looks wonderful now. The only other problem you have is the double initial disease. Oh, yeah. Sue Storm, Reed Richards, J. Jonah Jameson, Pepper Potts, Happy Hogan, Peter Parker, and Bruce Banner are a few illustrations. Stan writes, here's another one, Eric. Stan even has a... this one looks like it got faded a little bit. We can't read it. But it says, Gorgeous George. That sucks. He's actually kind of missed a few. Like, he has a bunch, but there's also Scott Summers, who actually has a triple one, if you think, a triple illusion. Scott Summers or Cyclops. There's, let's see, is there anyone else from X-Men? No, that's about it. But later on, there's some more characters like Robbie Robertson, Randy Robertson. Wait, Robbie Robertson. Like, you're not even trying that part when you think about it. I guess he also forgot to mention Betty Brant.
Betty Brant.
Peter's first girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yes. So there was definitely an alliteration thing going on back then. Superman, DC didn't have it too much except for Superman. Clark Kent, Lois Lane, Lex Luthor, Lana Lang. That's about it. Yeah, so I think I've read that he just did it because it's easier to remember.
There's too many names. What's happening?
Next one.
Next one, it says it's actually from David Catena from Wynberg, Pennsylvania. Dear Stan and Steve, I've got a question to ask you that's been bothering me for a long time now. When Spider-Man goes swinging from building to building with the aid of his web, what does he do with the used webs? Does he just leave them hanging there? If so, wouldn't he be paying fines galore for being a litter bug?
Good point.
Yeah. But if he doesn't leave them hanging there, what does he do with them? Also, where does Spidey get his web fluid? I doubt the neighborhood grocer carries the fluid. Does he manufacture it? If so, out of what? And where would he get the materials needed? Incidentally, I, for one, like the half Spider-Man, half Peter Parker pictures. I know this may sound ridiculous, but what would happen if the Angel and the X-Men even ever broke a wing? Who could set it? Here we go off on a tangent. Wouldn't it make a doctor wonder just how a little... I'm sorry. Would it make a doctor wonder just a little about a guy who walks in with a pair of wings and one is broken?
You know, I was on board with this guy at first. Now he's like just getting a little too weird.
Now he's a weirdo. All right, here's the response. David, don't overthink it.
I wish that was the way these letters.
See, I think I should write response letters.
Get alive.
But no, here's the real response. Well, answer your clever questions in our Spidey Annual. On sale this summer, Dave. As for Angel's broken wing, he'd just have to find a doctor who's for the birds. Boom. Take that, David.
Okay, so I'm guessing that since he didn't answer the question, I'm guessing that in the next issue, in a lot of these issues at the back, they'll have drawings where they just explain like the powers. And they have one where they explain, and I'm sure that's what this is. They explain what his web shooters are. You see, in the comics, he made web shooters.
Yeah.
And he made his own webbing. And I guess he made it to where it would dissolve after a couple hours.
That would make sense.
Yeah. Which you can see why it wasn't originally put into the Sam Raimi movies, because it's like, if he can afford to, if he's smart enough to make this stuff, like, how does he manufacture it? And if he is smart enough to make it, why doesn't he sell it and make money? Or like, where does he have the resources to come up with the stuff?
Yeah,
I mean, it
exactly.
doesn't make sense. Adversely, though, the way the movies did it, they left out the part that is important about the web shooters, and that is that the webbing dissolves after a while. So in Sam Raimi's movies, you have to realize that the entire city of New York is covered with giant spider webs.
Nice.
I mean, it's a real dichotomy. Um, but yeah, I always like. They also do one with the Fantastic Four where they explain what everything is in the Baxter Building. I always like those in the back.
No, those are cool. Yeah. Looking at these, these are the first time I'm seeing some of these comic books, and the artwork is just tremendous in them. I mean, you really turned me on to Spider-Man. I mean, I could tell you told me you went to see Spider-Man movies like 100 times.
Several times. Yes.
Several times, and that's your favorite hero.
Yeah, he was. I think he's been ever since I was a kid. Even part of it, part of it is just that relatability. Like, they do focus. The focus of Spider-Man is the fact that he is, a kid. He either in high school or college. The focus is actually the soap opera stuff. It's always about, is Aunt May sick again? How can he date Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy? What's he gonna do about Betty Brant? J. Jonah Jameson's giving him shit. I mean, it's always these. He had this like plethora of just wonderful supporting cast of characters, and then like Doc Ock would come in. And that would just be, I mean, it was just a way to fool kids into thinking they were like reading an action mag, when really what they were reading was drama. I mean, it was always going on. And these early ones, I mean, there's basically two really good eras with Spider-Man. Spider-Man is one that kind of, and that's why I like him so much, is because he is so relatable. Spider-Man is kind of an interesting character. He's not like a lot of the other heroes, where some of the other heroes become defined decades later. Iron Man, for example, like his better stuff really came out in the 80s. And even then, the Robert Downey Jr. movies really defined who that character is. And, that's 60 years later. His 80s stuff was pretty good too, though. But, and even Batman and Superman is, maybe not as much Batman or Superman, but Batman, he starts off as like kind of a pulp character, and then, he kind of just becomes like a weekly, just kind of a weird magazine until probably the 70s when Neil Adams started drawing. That's when they started getting darker, and that's like, again, and that's kind of the character we know. So I mean, with Spider-Man, it's different. Like he started off defined, and with him, unlike the other characters, after the first 10 years, he kind of drops in quality and never really goes back. I mean, in the 80s, there were some storylines. He and Mary Jane getting married, Venom. Was a pretty cool character in the 80s, and there were some storylines, but it was never what it was in the 60s with first Steve Ditko and then John Romita. What's funny is how different Steve Ditko and John Romita's stuff is. Steve Ditko's stuff is totally quirky. It focuses on it's just really kind of offbeat. There's a lot of humor in it, but it's also like at heart about Peter. With Romita, it was really, I mean, it's really a coming of age story, because with Romita, that's when he starts, more or less, when he starts college. It really becomes like a soap opera of his college life. It becomes a little bit darker. He starts going to his friend Randy Robertson, who's an African American kid, does all these civil rights protests, and it's really kind of interesting to see like how much he grew, not only how much he grows up, but like the comic itself grows up. Mm-hmm. So that would be my reason. What about you? What's your favorite hero?
I haven't read. There's no way I've read as many comics as you have. I'm not at your level, but
Thank God for you.
well, one hero that's always intrigued me is Batman, and that's just the whole going over and beyond what a normal human being should be able to do, especially with all the stuff that happened in his past, with his parents being murdered in front of him, and then taking that and still pushing himself not only to his limit but past his limit at any cost, and refusing to still kill the Joker or to kill anyone.
That's one thing that I do like about, and that's just kind of the nature of the storylines. That's one thing that I do like about Batman versus Spider-Man. Batman's one of my favorites too. But Batman had to work his ass off.
Right.
I mean, well, kind of. He was born rich.
Right.
But as far as his physical level and as far as his smarts, what he used them for, like he had to really work at that.
Right.
And Spider-Man just kind of got bit by a spider. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Actually,
he had the brain to do it and still make all his web shooters and.
And now that I think of it, it's like Spider-Man had to suffer too. So I mean, they're actually pretty similar characters.
Right, but Bruce Wayne was rich. Yeah. Peter Parker was, I would guess middle class, lower middle class, or whatever.
What I really like, again with Batman also has, and Spider-Man has a good rogues gallery too.
Right.
Batman's villains are. Like
I would think without those villains, he wouldn't be as popular as he was today.
Well, I mean, you've got, and sure, Spider-Man has some good villains. But
definitely.
With Batman, you've got Joker, Two-Face, Poison Ivy, Catwoman,
Ra's al Ghul.
He just has the Penguin.
Right.
I mean, I know a lot of people think the Penguin sucks. Penguin is a badass.
Right.
I mean, he's a little guy who shoots people with umbrellas. I mean, how cool is that? But and I think most people would go, to me, like the big three with comics, and most people will pick one of these as a favorite for various reasons: Superman, Batman, or Spider-Man.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
There's a few people who might take it a step further, and they'd say like Hulk, Wolverine. Maybe Flash or Green Goblin, something like that. I mean, but usually it's going to be someone's going to pick one of those out of the top.
Oh,
three.
Definitely.
And I think really what's interesting about those three is like you can kind of tell who's going to pick which one just based off their personalities.
Yeah.
Like they just kind of relate to one. But Batman, Spider-Man, Superman, those are all great heroes.
Oh yeah.
I like Wolverine. Wolverine's almost a little too cool, but I do like Wolverine.
Wolverine's like the jock to me. Like I don't relate to him.
Wolverine's more like the psycho. I don't even know. Like I think maybe I was gonna say maybe Superman is more like the jock, but
right.
He's more like the He's more like Superman's more like the kids. The kids who like excelled at athletics and academics.
Not me.
He was just like, and also really nice, like just like a perfect human being. That's who Superman is like.
Yeah.
But definitely check out the Man of Steel. I'll send you. I own those. I'll let you read those.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think you'd like it. It's only I think it's only like 6 issues long. It's pretty good, and they kind of define things.
One of the reasons I wanted to do this was to learn more.
Yeah.
Because I'm starting to, with the New 52, outside of like having a family and working, that's really the only thing I do outside of work is try to catch up on comics. Mm-hmm. Because, back then, now I have money to pay for them and a little bit of time, and I don't have my mom nagging at me to read a real book, and so...
Well, you should do that. You should read real books too.
Whatever.
But
real books.
Is there anything else we might have missed?
I don't think so. I think Well, I think our listeners should look forward to us we've been talking about having some guests on here, some of our other friends to kind of add another dynamic.
I've already talked to Schaefer, and he really wants to do it. We need to figure out how, because he doesn't live in Kansas anymore.
No,
So
he's
we're
not
gonna
in
have to
Kansas
figure
anymore,
out how to do
Toto.
this to add him by phone, do kind of a conference call with him.
Exactly.
He's a super nerd.
Oh,
He-
yeah.
He knows. He's a good, really real good guy, and real good friend of ours.
Another
We'd
guy,
love to have him on here.
Jonathan, who's a Superman.
Did he say he'd want to be on this?
Oh
or we
yeah,
just call
oh
him
yeah.
out? Okay.
No, both. But we do want him on here. He's a Superman guy. He
Yeah.
likes Superman. He's got Superman stuff in his house.
Yeah, I could imagine him being good at athletics and academia, and he is really nice to everyone. Yeah, I could totally see him being more of the Superman type.
Okay, well, that just about wraps it up. Thanks for listening to our show. Next week we'll be reading mail from Avengers issue 7, and also Rick Jones. Who is he? And what happens when Captain America catches him wearing his dead partner's clothes? Find out next on True Believers. This is James Heyer and Enrique Ramirez signing off.